Present.
I'm here. Eric.
Present.
Gary Hurst. And we have an induction night. New appointed Commissioner Watt.
Thank you for the opportunity. The city and council giving me over 30-year resident of Hollister, 50 years aviation experience, 35 years as airline pilot, 15 years military and general aviation. So, hopefully I can be an asset to them.
Welcome, Eric. We appreciate your being a commissioner.
Thank you. So do we have any public input at this point?
We have no public comment now.
Thank you very much. You can. Waiting for the agenda.
No one's on the consent agenda.
I like it. I'm going to go fast. On to commission business. One.
All right. This item tonight is to receive presentation on rates and fee study for the Hollister Municipal Airport. So the commission may remember that was back probably in January 2024. We stated that was one of our goals was complete rent study so that we could kind of a measurement of where our rates stand based on some valid comparisons. I won't go into detail about how that's all set up, but we have Ryan Lake from the Century Group Partners from Long Beach, California. He's our main point of contact with the consultant on the study. And I'll let Ryan cover his credentials, but quickly to just say that the staff report covers the Century Group is quite adverse in their airport management and development experience, and we were quite excited with their proposal that was priced in a very fair range for the airport, and found they are excellent to work with, and we hope that this is just one first item that we can use them for accomplishing some of the other things that will help the airport in the future. With that, I will turn it over to Ryan.
Thanks, Jeff. And also on the line is Costello. I don't know if you see it all, but he's with us. I'll share my screen, and I'll get started with a brief presentation. I'll get 20 slides. Then I'll be able to through probably 20 to 30 minutes so that we save plenty of time for question answer. Are you able to see those slides?
Yes.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, great. So as Jeff said, my name is Ryan Lake. I am with Century Group Partners. Kirk Downey do quite a bit of consulting around the country, but particularly in California. About 4 airports within California where we're right now related to rate charts. My background is actually in higher education. My full-time job is a college professor at Valley University, and I run the aviation program there in the past, and now this side. Century Group Partners really started a development firm and doing property development on airports. And got involved with helping airports do RP proposals for airport development, and we also work with other pre-developers and aeronautical operators to respond to those RP standards, rate charge, rules and regulations, and really primary management compliance documents, helping airports to come into line with best practices around the industry. We're unique that we're not necessarily full consultants, really operators ourselves. Myself representing a school. I also represent the University Aviation Association, which is 116 different collegiate aviation programs around the country. Kurt's background is also president and CEO of the National Transport Association, which represents all of the general aviation business side of aviation and AEC. Kurt, do you want to jump in and say anything before I started here? You're on mute, right?
Thanks, Jeff, for the opportunity to be here tonight, this presentation and the work we've done together. I'm really impressed with the vision that you've created for how you want to structure airport financial sustainability at Hollister. As Ron mentioned, we are working with multiple airports, California, including others, Arizona. We're seeing similar challenges, but be different mindset and how they're achieving those goals. So also Ryan mentioned our background is really airport development. We took the skill sets and do a lot of project management. So we develop properties for other developers and act their construction manager. And on the consultant side means that we do a lot of compliance documents, but we also try to work with airports and understand what the sustainable development looks like. So it's a good partnership between the tenant and the airport. And you have a great little report. I spent the last 4 days in a NTA meetings with the president of the other associations. And as you know, Aaron Pleasant's the president of AOPA, Aircrafters and Pilots Association, has a partnership with the P-51 based at Hollister. And he had those color conversations the last few days about airport rates and fees, and very complimentary airports. So look forward to seeing providing this presentation to you and getting feedback as well.
Sure. I'll jump into the presentation. It started by talking the article that I really worked on together is published on the Asian Business Journal with NATA Trade Journal. More of a philosophical approach to how to fund the future of general aviation infrastructure. The issue that we're seeing in relation with GA rates and charges is something that's becoming a lot more common and not unique. So there's, I think, a big discussion going on among the different parts of the industry, as well as in DC, seeing patchwork legislation being passed around land fees. We'll talk a little bit about tonight. But we just wanted to provide a background on some of these trends and a little bit of information on airports are to be fun. So for most airports, they're relying on general subsidies over the low match side of federal funds, but primarily for operating expenses. And in communities, there's growing pushback, let's say, to general fund subsidies to be able to pay for airports. It's really difficult to communicate value these airports to the general citizens, not a part that doesn't lie, and is met with a lot of cynicism and misunderstanding. So as I talk about day funding, it's really two sides. There's the capital side, which is paying for your infrastructure, the operating budget, which pays for the day options and When it comes to capital projects, the NIPI eligible report, and when I say NIPI, it's the National Plan of Integrated Airport System. So there are around 300 reports in the phase NIPS for the current plan. About 88% of those general aviation airports. If those NIPS airports are eligible to receive federal funds, which is kind of right of 90% match. We'll talk that later, but historically, the FAA will for 90% of your capital projects, and then the sponsor, the hook for the last 10%. Every state has a little bit different system for how they make in, and we'll get into more detail as well. Those funds essentially paid for $20 billion in capital projects in those 20 years. And 20-year window important because in exchange taking those funds, the city of Hollister has sponsored the airport, committed the airport to aeronautical use in the next 20 years. That's essentially the useful life of a total asset. That's how the phase come up with a 20-year term. These are assurances. Now, when it comes to land acquisition, there is really no useful life land. So taking a fund for real asset purchase obligate the airport in perpetuity. So you really aren't able to have those rent assurances unless you go through a process of differing the land. So that's just providing a fundamental understanding of how airport finance, both on the capital side, get into a little more on the operating side in it. Just to talk about kind of relevant growth assurance, because this is not something that we are familiar with or aware of on the airport side. And so I'm going to go through these in detail, but just wanted to give you understanding importance. Over 40 grant assurance that sponsors commit to when they're accepting the funds. The main ones, these six. The first one is serving rate powers. Essentially, the airport can't do anything that would restrict it from complying with any other grant assurance or obligations. 19, pretty straightforward. Requires the airport to be maintained in a safe and suitable condition at all times, and of course, with minimum standards. And I'll talk about the minimum standards and some of these are prior management compliance documents in the next slide. Number 22, economic discrimination. This is where we start getting some of the rate charge relevant ones. Does the airport must be available for public use in reasonable terms and without discrimination for all aeronautical activities. There's a lot to break out in that. I'll tell you that through the presentation. Number 3 is straightforward exclusive rights. Can't give any operator the airport exclusive right to continue aeronautical activity. Kind of goes back to that idea that you can't, that everybody has to have reasonable access to the airport. Number 24 is the one that specifically applies to what we're talking about tonight, fee rental structure. So it says the sponsor wants to establish a fee structure and make financial decisions with the goal of achieving self-sufficiency. So there's two parts to that. Establish a fee structure, which City Hollister does. We're just working to update it. But that fee structure has to have the end goal of achieving sufficiency. And we'll get into what the details of that are just a few slides. The last one is that I want to talk about is airport revenue number 25. This is really the one that gets airports in the most trouble because any revenue generated at the airport for aeronautical use must be within a closed financial airport system. So if an aeronautical user is paying into the airport system, money has to be invested and spent in the airport itself. So the way that the FAA ensure compliance with these assurances is through the primary management compliance documents. And there's a few of them referenced already. These are kind of a formal record of where the airport is following the assurance. So you can see up here that kind of the three main ones are in the middle there, which, the schedule rate changes is part of that. You also have rules and regulations. These assure safe and efficient operation by all users. So they apply to everybody, whereas the minimum standards are for commercial aeronautical service providers. Those are the business that are running at the airport. And minimum standards are to ensure level playing field for all the businesses that compete against each other, but also for users of the airport, make sure that they have the basic minimum service that they need for aeronautical activity. So these three either are municipal ordinance or at least point back to this ordinance and be contained in administrative regulating. You also have other documents that support this, leasing policy and template leases, as well as design development standards. So that gives you a kind of idea of the structure of the administrative regulation that governs an airport and how the rate charges discussed tonight fit to that. Well, a little bit on federal policy and rate charges. As mentioned, the FAA through the Urban Airways Trust Fund funds approximately 90% of cap project GA airports that are eligible. When it comes to the operating side, though, so day-to-day operating expense of the airport, that's 100% on sponsor airport. And sponsors typically rely on operating revenue to cover or offset the operating expenses. Those expenses typically are airport staff labor, that's usually the biggest one, but it'd be a number of different expenses that you and your budget covering and keeping the airport open. And so as it comes to establishing the operating revenue and the charges that they establish to collect those, the municipality tends to rely on what it does in a lot of other departments within the city. That's the goal balance the budget by some market rates that are comparable to similar facilities by. And so that's really helpful and insightful for getting an understanding of what the competition is, but airports themselves are really actually monopolies. And so while that format, they're not universally comparable. Every airport has different rates. There's a segment that I'm sure you've heard a number of times that if you've been to one airport, you see an airport. There are so many different variables, whether the airspace, different base operators at the airport, the type of hangar that you own yours, reverse. So all these things fact base, and even when we're comparing airports, we don't know if they're sufficient themselves. Rates of the charge may be low. They also may be collect enough revenue rate and they cover the rate base. And that base is important because that's essentially what we're trying to cover at the airport. So this term the A uses it, it's to cover cost of the airfield itself, and it takes keep airfield up running. So what we do know is that the rate historically have kept up increase in operating expenses, and the regional used to kind of benchmark others to reinforce the historical rate. So we're only looking at what other airports are charging, and everybody else isn't charging enough. That's to make it so nobody else is fit or self-sustainable, and it's not rate comparable. Part of the issue too is that the capital costs we've seen for construction, particularly over the last 5 years, really increased. Even prior to that, we've seen very substantial increases in cost capital projects and construction, which doesn't necessarily end with CPI. Even seen the cost of, like the Consumer Price Index go, the cost of construction itself has actually far outpaced even CPI inflation we've seen. So in establishing, the charge at airports, we will take all the consideration, but really the goal is to establish rates that are going to help the airport be sufficient and sustained as possible. Now, the FAA doesn't prescribe a single type of approach for rate setting to get the airport in this. There are a lot of ways to establish rates. And their main guidance is that it needs to be reasonable, consistent, and transparent, so that you can justify rates established, that methodology all the time, and you're transparent with that, so you're engaging in consultation with users at the local level like we are tonight. So talking about rate base, I just want to dive into what that means. If we look just at the airport operating budget, in this case of line, a lot of airports use that to say, well, we can cover the cost of running the airport. We're good, sustain. But that's really not what actually takes to run an airport. We talk about the top of the slide here, the airport net requirement and the airport total requirement. So this airport total requires essentially the cost of your operating and capital budget plus a reserve. We know that if you've had one budget before, everything goes as planned, right? Set a budget, but there can be a lot of variables that lead to exceed or undershoot the budget. So we want to look at not just the main expense, but also reserve charge, which we like that at around 20%. But you've got enough money saved up that if you pass your budget, you're able to cover those charges. When it comes to the capital improvement plan, what we refer to as the ASIP, we know the next 5 years are projected to be the airport. We know what we're going to pay this year, but the budgets for the ASIP projects vary substantially from year to year. So I see the Hollister in the next slide. The capital projects for the year aren't that bad, but the next 2 years are going to jump substantially. And we want to set a rate methodology that is going to fluctuate those rates a bit, provide some consistency. So the idea with reserve charge for capital projects is that we're saving for the expenses we know are down the road. We can't save for all at once, but we start prorating those expenses into rate base so they're collecting them. So that's your airport total requirement, essentially your own budget, your capital budget, so reserve for those. That's what we're trying to save for each year. And then what we'll do is credit all the airport revenue they're generating with that shortfalls to our airport net requirements. So then we've got to actually couple with to be able to create a healthy airport ecosystem. So just getting into
the longer way to do that, there's the issue that's perpetuating. We've seen over the last 5 years is airports as capital improvement costs increase, capital construction costs increase. It's a hole you're trying to dig out. And if you try to refer that reserve goal, and it just getting worse and fees are there pressure on the fees.
Yeah, that's right, Kurt. And I apologize for this slide. I hope you have it in front. I've moved around a little bit. These were initially at another presentation, but I was supposed to go with this up front. And we'll share a copy of this so you have that as well. But I just wanted to give a snapshot picture of the operating cash flow and what it looks like at Hollister. I know looking budget be cover well for some, so you're free with this. What we do is we go and pro forma the budget for the next 5 years to try and establish rates that cover your reasonable expenses that get forecasted over the rate set period. So on the middle column is based there 2025. We took the O&M that was established this year. And if look at what it is for just the operating expenses, we kind of figure that the bottom of the airport revenue should be about $1.5 million, and you a little less of that expense budgeted for the year. So if everything was as spent, you have a surplus of $9,000 for your operating expense. That's lying though. If you look at the top part of that, you're factoring reserve charge. We haven't started talking capital expenses yet. So just with that, if we want to have a healthy reserve, probably need $250,000 to cover that 2% charge. When you look at the forecast part to the column to the right here, saying in 2025, and same numbers, but we put in the cap expenses here, that essential theoretical shortfall goes up $360,000 for the year. So instead of a healthy airport, you'd really need to be bringing in another $360,000 to cover the reserve and cap project this year. As you go off into the future, particularly 2027, that's when we looked at your capital projects, you can see that shortfall essentially just gets deeper and deeper, right? So really, the bottom line, your operating revenue are relatively stable and positive. You're not generating enough to cover those capital projects and build a healthy reserve for the future. When we go to the capital budget, and you see at the bottom here, we've got the ASIP program in through 2027. Notice 2026 and 2027 have about $10 million, $10 million in 2026, another $7.25 in 2027. So there's some really large jump. Now again, the FAA's kick 80%. The state Caltrans will put in, up to $150,000. You're not paying all that. You're not paying for that. But even a 5% match on that $10 million is a lot to come with. So you can see how the balance really go negative. So just get through capital expenses for the next 3 years through 2027. Essentially, you have to come up with $700,000 to be able to cover the match in there. That's really tough to do when you're essentially half of your operating revenue for your year. Right? So 50% of your annual operating revenue. And that's a very short window to try and come up with that. So I know a lot of this good news. We want to paint a picture of the current situation at Hollister. Honestly, that is what we see at a lot of airports. The fact that the budget for the year looks positive is a really good start point. Ideally, going into this capital intensive period, having your reserve already down. You have, and that's really what's kind of causing the shortfall that we're predicting here. When we look at the comparable airports around to see what their rates are, if there's opportunities to essentially raise rates to kind of market, we're going to come up with methodology to us identify what is a comparable airport. We've worked with other airports in the past where we have tenants in the airport that can again what a comparable airport is. Each is kind of pick for to justify the point, and we came up with this objective methodology using the D10 to look at key criteria for each airport that let's identify what those are. We take these criteria, we score all of the airports region and Hollister. And the one being perfect match is zeroing the farthest region of Hollister. And so you look at, you get something like this, right? We have a little airport and the bank to city where their score from 0, which is Hollister, it's perfect match, all the way to is 0, which is the airport. So we got 8 airports, kind of what we call comparable airport on the list here. You can tell they score relative to Hollister. In this case, we actually want to look at a couple other different factors here. So we added 2 airports that are competitive, 0 within a 2 nautical mile distance of Hollister. So even though they're perfectly comparable airports, still want to know what these competitive airports are, because these are those that use have kind of substitute Hollister. We want to look at fire-based airports in the state, and so they're because that's an important part of the revenue for Hollister as well. So we look at that. This is the survey results we had from going through and asking each one of these airports what we're currently charging. Now, this is a very difficult exercise. Good airports, Hollister, a public fee schedule, and can just go look and see what's passed the municipal ordinance and able to put their service. The smaller the airport is, the harder that is to do. With a lot of the airport that was really challenging. You also have situations where not all of the they're charging are in the schedule. We found that quite a bit at Hollister, even where the fee schedule that you have is great, but the fees being charged are there. For instance, the monthly add-on rate. The I have here is just really here's this point. I called the AO to confirm what the rate was, and we weren't even sure. So there's challenge in trying to verify this data. This is a snapshot at least, and that's why we have a large peers of airports, because even if there's some variability here, we've got a good picture to look at a wider number of airports. Anything more than 10, they're really not adding a lot of information because they tend to lump together. So look at these individual fees, and I've got a slide with chart. We'll go through each one of these. They go through pretty clear. With the flow fee, they're the one Hollister, actually at the bottom of the list. The comparable rates are anywhere from 10 to 13 cents, but Hollister the lowest seller. It's not a terribly significant for revenue. You know, if you're doing 1 million gallons of fuel at General Aviation Airport, every 5 cents is get you $5,000 worth of revenue. So an 8 fuel load fee is making a huge dent, but some revenue coming in. Increasing this business can solve your problem instantly, though. The improved ground rents, bus hangers, these ones were Hollister substantially above market. I'll show you that in the graph coming up. It comes to hangar storage with hangars, monthly titles, or in the comparable rate. And the bottom, we kind of call these airport fees. The ones that Hollister currently have in place, you do have at the set, but if they are based, they're not necessarily comparable. So those involve commercial medical fee, which are the fee you charge doesn't stop at the airport. Some non-medical business like Uber, Lyft, we call TNC, Transit Network companies, kind of non-aviation related business operating the airport, even don't have a lease. Also, land fees, like I said, very controversial topic now. Hollister does landing, but it's applied to Cal Fire. And there's concerns that be considered discriminatory because you're only charged to operate at comparable operators. Whereas the landing for the other fire bases is typically $1 to $2 per 1,000 pounds for aircraft that are over 5, which is the threshold for large aircraft. Also, it comes to vehicular parking. There's no fee placed there. And that's a key one is implemented at challenge. Also, lease origination or transfer fee. This one doesn't really make sense because you don't have a lot of private hangars that have own leases. Hollister sells the majority, if not all, of the hangars on the airport, which is a great resource of the airport. They really enjoy this, actually. So the fee really applies to cases where we have versionary hangars that are maybe transferred in the airport, not seeing any value from sales. So going through the different fees that I mentioned, flow fees, like I said, average 10 cents, slightly below that. This is one you easily bring up to be line with, but it's not generate substantial revenue. It comes to ground rent, you see a wide disparity here. And this is really reflective of the airport approach to try and encourage development to have available land. In case Hollister don't have a lot to develop, it makes sense to charge more for land, the little that you have that is available. So the airport list here, you see you have more land available and trying to develop private development on the airport, be able to build to generate more revenue through just ground leases, but fee sales, having the hangars eventually revert back to the airport so they can ask. Comes to hangars, again, very high rate. This is the primary source of revenue for the airport. And this is really what's kind of balanced the budget for you. So while you see a lot of comparable airports, in fact, all the comparable airports have lower bond rates than what is at Hollister. Don't know if those airports are self-sufficient, if the fees are collecting are adequate enough to really break you for those airports. We do the survey, we ask if they'll tell us if it's self-sufficient. What happened when it's us? It's not big pride or not making it. The one that usually are will tell us that. So we get a pretty good idea of who's not. But that gives you an idea at least of how you rank relative box hangers. The idea with this is if you can get the airport to be self-sufficient and healthy, we can go back and normalize the rates and bring them down, but let the others kind of catch up to where we're at. And if you're going to institute increases, do so where it makes more sense to bring their fees up in line. What's the tiers though? You're essentially kind of rate line. The average is 1 cent, let's just put over. But there's a really tight grouping of ports that'll serve air. Hollister running is really good, but I don't bore you with the graphs. Tie downs, very similar kind of situation here. Right in line with the average, settling it, and you can get really tight grouping in the middle of the graph. When it comes to the airport fees, I've hit on these right in that first slide. These are some potential fees that you could implement that would be in line with the comparable airports. Looking at these, I guess no simple bullet. There's trade-offs. One of these was challenging implementing fees like a parking fee or the adverse impact you have from your business on the airport by then taking a large chunk of revenue that's already generated. So there's no simple solution here, but it gives you an idea of kind of pair of reports. Probably the easiest one here and the most recent trend we've been seeing is a direct fee or an operational aircraft storage. So if aircraft are not airworthy when they're here or being stored in a town, you would get those aircraft airworthy operating or off the airfield so that the room for their operators that are create activity at the airport and spend money at the airport. It doesn't. It's helpful than an aircraft that's not flying at the airport because it's not bringing money other than they're paying rent or rent. So with that, I will kind of on the land fee discussion. This is something that Kurt and I have been involved quite a bit around the country. Land fees are popular, right? ASB uses a big hot topic right now. As I mentioned, we're seeing a patchwork of state legislation go. There's also federal legislation that's opposed. In some cases, landing fee can make sense, particularly when you're charging to heavy operators that are, I'd say, using one way more. So you have aircraft that are above that 5 category. Those used to be less price sensitive than others, more convenience focused. So having a fee is not necessarily discourage them from the airport or encourage them to go to a competing airport. They're really more in the convenience of Hollister as it relates to the Trinity 2. Also, all fees that we put are paid for by your users and your tenants. They'll pay for the system. There really isn't a lot of fee that you charge trading users. And in the information that we've seen from Hollister, just a few days, 74% of the operation at Hollister were from trained users. We have aircraft that are coming to the airport that are paying fair share. If they're buying fuel, paying a little bit in the fuel tax them, that's really a discretionary purchase. That requires that, so the operator that's flying that's buying fuel really isn't paying anything to the system, and you need to maintain that infrastructure and to keep the light in terms of operating expense. So this is a consideration. It's nothing we're not going to push. We wanted to be top up, and if it makes sense, that's what we may recommend. And I think that at this point, we're really just presenting the current situation. Right? We're not getting any recommendation fees. We just want to kind of present the idea of the situation, financial situation with budgets. Hollister's not a terrible position here, but what we're finding is there's an easy solution, right? Already, you can't raise rate to get back into balance because you're already at the high end of this. We really want to go higher. There are some other fees you can look at, bring in money here and there, and if it's part of the comprehensive solution, but any one fee is going to be over, but to the problem you're facing. So just as the next steps, this start stakeholder engagement process here, showing the result, the risk that we've done, how Hollister compares those other airports we've looked at. Next is really this base pro forma. When we have a deal at rates, the airport interested in implementing, we can cast the next 5 years and establish a rate that are going to not only break even the operation, cover capital match, hopefully build a little bit of reserve, because 2027 is not going to become a project. You're going to have a whole bunch of capital projects beyond that they want to saving for a while. So we want to establish a target reserve of what you identify as necessary for having that safe balance to be able to cover the operating expenses if they go over, but also start thinking for the future cap projects beyond 2027. And that will then be implemented through a resolution approving your schedule of rates and charges. You already done it at one point, but want to update that. One, to make sure that all of your current charging established there, and then two, add in any new fees that you may want to include, and then increase fee where you may below it. This doesn't end with us. We're kind of facilitating discussion, get you started in the path. We'll establish the methodology that you can put in practice every year. So then you do your annual budgets. You're going to look at pro forma how this is calculated out, make sure that the budget you set is not just for this year, but is going to be up for healthy environment in the future, and then roll those 8 projects on for the future so you can pro forma that out with market adjustments at least every 5 years to ensure that you're staying healthy. So inclusion, I've hit on some of it already. This is not a unique challenge, particularly in California. It's already high relative to your peers, so you can't just raise rates. Really, the additional is going to come from price, right? We would see additional development at the airport that bring in revenue sources rather than to just burden existing users of the airport, and ideally broaden that revenue base. And there's a few ideas there already that's working to this. Then it can get to a health point in the future. Able to reset those comparable rates so that more competitive with comparable and competitive airports in the region, and kind of some of that burden off existing users. So that's what I have for the presentation. To take some questions into discussion.
All right, to the presentation, Ryan. Do we have public?
We have one. It's May.
Midnight operator at Hollister Airport, business for a long time. Couple comment or question. She's also here that came up. Is it possible? I saw all the graph and all the money and all the stuff. Is it possible to get all this people on this peer set on the same graph? Because look at pictures of certain these things that are. So if you compare with all this to this, would make that a clear understanding. That's one. And the other one on the airport feed, vehicle parking feed. We can install meters or how we would that's a parking lot where you park at night here $5, $7. How can great idea, but us I have no idea how to do. As far as derelict aircraft, I kind of agree on our term. But if a individual paying X amount of money for that hangar and the aircraft is there, it's flying. Okay, let's say get out, put another aircraft there. Who's flying? This one. How much to gain from that? We still the same pay for the total. Okay, same type flyer or flyer. Okay, my heard to do something, but to impose a fee on that, I'm sorry. Next one is commercial airline feed. That fee sound like a business operator on the air. I'm a business operator. I'm already paying taxes. I'm paying taxes to the county. already. Now you're gonna whack me for 2% gross income? I'm a small guy. We're a small airport. We're not San Jose National. Okay? So, a non-commercial, 10%, it's only business I in Hollister that's not commercial. Elk Lodge, restaurant. They're paying tax enough for it. Okay? Head transfer fee. Like you said before, it's kind of an essential airport. Right now, we own more than air itself, own more than hang. But, sorry, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to just kind of address some of those too. So we're suggesting any rate at this point. We just want to kind of show results that we did. I'm going to remember all points here. Parking, absolutely, that'd be a challenge. You can have it in a parking lot. At times, the airport has a difference to do that. As I mentioned, construction can be hard for that. It can sometimes added into your lease or ground lease, something like that. Then make the user feel like being nickel-dimed. Like I'm already paying a lease, I should be being actually able to part of the facility that I'm taking. So absolutely, there's a challenge to implement that. When it comes to both commercial and the non-commercial, aeronautical and non-aeronautical charges, the percentage base is not the standard. The standard is typically a fixed fee. What we're seeing is more airports wanting to capture some value that created airports. So there are a handful of airports that have implemented that. It's not necessarily what we're recommending here, and that makes sense. Have a generally that fees set equal the amount of time that it takes for a staff to build of those permits. It's making sure that the business are in compliance with the rules, regulations, minimum standard. So that's the approach, really a cost recovery approach for the time to be able to issue commercial or not a permit. And those are really helpful when it comes to minimum standards because you have operators that are operating faith that are following standards. Pulling up that commercial operating permit is really the best alternative to trying to get them for leasehold themselves. So having an operating permit, which I believe you already have in, is a good practice, but how you establish a fee to really cost administering that. It could be fixed, it could be variable, it could be a combination of both. A lot of what we suggest is that airport have a fee below minimum threshold, maybe $1 of revenue, and anything over that go to a variable rate. When it comes to non-aeronautic operator of the airport, absolutely restaurants, some of those even considered a commercial operation. Restaurants really are making a ton of money, and so a fee like this, 10%, would put them out of business. But what we've done in the past to work with kind of businesses is that if you have a lease on the airport, you don't have to pay the commercial non-aeronautical fee. But it may be a fixed similar to the operators that aeronautical operators have. The 10% is pretty standard for industry when it comes to the TNCs. And those are Uber, Lyft, Oro type operators. Many of them are used operating at airports already and are willing to pay the fee of approaching, but they're not coming knocking at your door and say, hey, we owe you money because you have established it. So our experience where airports reached out has, in order to be able to operate an airport and do business at the airport, even though you don't have a leasehold, you still have operating permit and use the fee of operating permit that operators generally apply.
Kind of can add to that. The non-aeronautical versus aeronautical. On the aeronauticals, we're doing a parallel survey. On the non-aeronautical rent rates, the FAA's expectations that you charge fair market rent. So that would be parallel to the off-airport industrial commercial rental rates in the area. That's the FAA expectation, and many times we find that number is significantly higher than the aeronautical rate. The other component to comment with the derelict aircraft. So actually within FAA's guidance over the last few years that they created like a hangar policy used for airports to have the spread to how they address non-aeronautical use in aeronautical hangars. And one of their suggestions as speaker man, it was really to incentivize aircraft flying because it does generate additional revenues. It could flow fees or other types of activities at airport maintenance or other things that would create economic activity.
The derelict aircraft usually a process for owner to be able to remediate situation, bring aircraft. It gives them time to be able to come early. If you have home aircraft are being built in a hangar, usually you get like a year to finish project so that it can't be in the hangar for years and it's not be finished. And that all established in regulations.
If you have a number of under operating aircraft, and you have flight training or maintenance operation or fuel, it's impacting those operations by having non-operating aircraft. So for people coming to look at the airport, wants to thrive and operating and active, and being derelict aircraft, somewhat of a disincentive to that business attraction.
However, I would state that, say, trend in the aviation industry right now, seeing pilot buying the aircraft and have afforded hangars and taking care of the aircraft, they're starting to age out, and basically, or by age, they're getting out flying. And the next generation is not necessarily in the same financial position to take over, or is there the same interest to take over. So this is becoming an issue that airports are dealing with more aircraft are falling out of airworthiness and are just sitting there as kind of aircraft, unfortunately, dying a slow death on the ramp or in a hangar. So penalize those people, because I feel for particularly when the second generation is trying to deal with what do I do with the aircraft, it's not a lot of resources to them necessarily available. Luckily, we have people come in with his business or people that could potentially help them. Hey, you can improve your plane, maybe sell it, and those type of things. We have some available resources here to help people with derelict aircraft, but the fee is really meant to compensate more for the fact that it's not operating and consuming like fuel and those types of things. And so, and eventually you get too many derelict aircraft, right? And we have a small ramp, we have a limited number of hangars. And a hangar policy has stated that hangars really intended for active aircraft that need the access to the taxiways and runways. So you tie all that together. And there are a couple of points that I would point out here. So when you talk about commercial fees, our businesses, a lot of them, no, they don't make tremendously big revenues, and so I'm not in a favor of instance. And in my opinion, some of the leases that I've seen done and some of the terms in those leases recognize the fact that our airport activity didn't necessarily get a sustainable business, so the rates are set purposely lower so that it could be sustainable. And so even though, these guys are professional consultants and from the industry experience, they're identifying what the realm of possibilities are in terms of other fees. We're not talking about whether it's the right thing to do for Hollister Airport at this point. That's a secondary discussion. Their job is to report what they found and to broaden our horizon of what possibilities are. Not necessarily, they're not making a recommendation what should be in place for our airport in our unique situation that's here. Okay, so that being said, I want to recognize the fact that we currently don't have commercial minimum standards. Commercial minimum standards are particularly useful in that they protect you against ground insurance where you have non-discrimination. So let's say we had somebody wanting to come in and propose to be other FBO on the field. Well, we have an FBO on the field, and they have a building. They have a certain amount of space that's dedicated to aircraft maintenance, and they offer a pilot lounge. They offer fueling at field farm. They also operate field trucks. They do out of normal business hours fueling for a very special attendant CAL FIRE. You wouldn't expect to find that kind of business, number one, at such small airports as a G airport with our small number of operations and small activities. So one, we benefit greatly from the fact that we have a full service FBO. If you commercial minimum standards there, then when somebody came and proposed, they would have to meet the requirements. So in building side, what services are they going to provide? What hours are they going to operate? So commercial minimum standards is something that you do a gap analysis of what the airport normally have good operational documents. That is something we might look forward to engaging with mentioned partner to develop a commercial minimum standards document. But that being said, we have 14 buildings. And most of those are typed in long lease, so it's not like it's a high priority because we've got a competing priority from a budgetary standpoint. And really, that's not going to come of tremendous use because we don't have a lot of opportunity for new business to come in based on that. Of the I would approximate about 40 acres that we have left to develop on the west side of the airport. Most of that property is tied up there in the taxi lanes that would connect the business park. There's a little bit of hang space, potential hangar development in between how we connect over there. You have 16 acres approximately that is set aside for the CAL FIRE new air base to build over there. So again, ground lease revenue, looking at increasing that population of ground leases. And when we talk about growing revenue, you're going to have two items that we're going to hear next that are examples of opportunities for revenue generating. One being airport use, new use to us, and then one that is a ground lease expansion. So we're talking about population revenue growing more than just trying to artificially increase the rate because it didn't get us. And I started out with pension group partners. I said to them that my gut instinct we need to be making in between $1.8 and $2 million in revenue a year, so that we have sufficient money to, in some years, that will give us some cash flow to put towards balance, which then goes out. Because the dynamic that you have at Hollister Airport, you have two runways, a lot of pavement, so you've got big costly ACP projects, right? Your federal match projects are big matches. And you don't have a tremendous amount of revenue generating opportunity because we have extra 40 acre off away from runway and taxiways that we could look to non-aviation uses on, or so limited in some of those things. We have what we have, which is great. We need to maximize what we do have. But again, as airport manager, I recognize them to the fact that these rates are high in most categories. So I don't think it's right to only look to increase rates, try to get us to the 1.8 or 2 million. I'm more about focusing on economic development opportunity, being welcoming to new uses, and you never know what a new uses can lead to opportunities where somebody might want to build a hangar here because the company's having great success. So if we allow a use where they're testing or they're doing research and development at our airport, that has the potential 2 to 5 years down the road to turn into something of a big process. So, and more, we're also starting to see new technology entering into the aviation system, and that is a new, advanced air mobility is an example of a trending market right now that has the potential to be a new revenue generator for GE airports. So those are some of my thoughts. And when it comes to things like overnight vehicle parking fees or looking at landing fees, I'm against airport is not necessarily a destination. It's more like we're a convenience or an alternative to their airports. And so when people do come here, I'm I wouldn't want to see us limit fees that would discourage them from making the choice since we're not necessarily their destination, but we're a choice because of another reason. Okay? So that being said, I mean, how many businesses in town and throughout the county fly in here to come here? You know, we have like one jet flies in with a Hazel Hawkins Hospital owner, for example. Okay. But outside of that one jet, I'm not sure of people that come specifically to Benita County or Hollister as a destination. So that's what I'm saying. Our airport tends to get used as an alternative. They're passing through, maybe they're coming to bring steering to Ernst Great Business, Teach Wings, those type of things, right? So maybe they're coming because our FBO does great work on aircraft, right? So those are the types of things that we need to look and say we want to implement fees that are also going to drive away businesses coming to us. So I do appreciate that these gentlemen are broadening our horizon in this discussion, but this is not, we're not taking this and saying we're going to implement X, Y, and Z at this point. So this is to receive information. So with this, I'd like to get any final comment from the presenters, but mainly, do the commissioner have any questions at this point? We'd like to wrap this up in about 5 minutes.
I don't even have questions. I want to say a great presentation, and Jeff's comments were very thorough. I do agree with the airport director that there are other means of economic development for and revenue for the airport, including defense, maybe beginning some property, and something else is going on his report tonight about removing the old contaminated buildings and rebuilding some new facilities there that would accommodate more revenue. So thank you very much.
I think that you'll, as we look at airports around other areas, we've been in the challenge that they're having, especially Jeff's point out looking for other revenue sources behind just easy button would be landing fees or other raising fees. It will be the members, I think, really could be impactful of those other revenue sources. For instance, new development they could do that's not only generate increase and revenue, it's going to get other economic benefits inside the fence and outside the fence of the community. And Hollister played a critical role, I think, in the California area, North Salinas and South San Jose. You're going to see continued needs for an economic driving airport. And so treating it the way your vision is, we think really appropriate. We're going to continue to take the feedback from stakeholders and with Jeff to come up with a recommendation that we think, to his point, will ultimately help you guide for the airport sustainable airport with you.
One question for the airport director. This study talks about transit landing fees that brought an issue that our CAL FIRE, it's on. Okay. The CAL FIRE may or may not cause grant issues in the future. Should we restructure that landing fee so we alleviate grant issue problems, or is it a problem at all?
Well, number one right now, I would say I'm aware of being a problem, right? So we haven't had a come in and now it's about leaving our fee structure. They have come in and done kind of with the airport. There is a potential, that's what the consultant's job is to do, is identify. What they're saying is that comment that because you only have one user with a landing fee, there is the potential that it could be looked at as being an insurance not being fair and consistent amongst their users because it only applies to one user. So that being said, I look at the operation we have there. So we have typically about, I would say on average, probably less than 6 to 8 big jets coming that are over 12,500 pounds in a month. I would look for that with the FO because they're more over there. They actually see the ramp. I don't see that fly off, but that's my sense. And so again, you have jets coming in that are not a destination, and so I think having landing fees would be good to look at some point. Don't think our maturity of kind of operation and the business that come to this airport now, I don't get fits to put a landing fee on aircraft at any way.
We're going to be applying for numerous grants for the capital improvement in the airport.
Well,
and we have that problem.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Have consultants thought about Amazon? Got under the fence agreement on property. Don't
The 1 million square foot Amazon warehouse is co-located off airport property, so currently we receive no benefit from that building. And it was my understanding, wasn't here for it, but the 2 year leading up to the construction, they never asked about through the fence access and having freight brought in by aircraft.
That's
So
okay.
we have asked and we have engaged in that, and we continue to get, no, they're not interested. So the hope is maybe they will.
It'll alleviate a lot of truck traffic on the roads coming down here. And
I agree.
we actually charge them.
Well, again, our industry is changing leaps and bounds for moving freights and delivered. It's not all 737s and bigger jets moving freight anymore, right? Again, the advanced air mobility, there's a lot of smaller applications like Cessna Airvans and potentially some of this new electric vertical take and landing aircraft. The designs to be doing haul for small freight and different things. So again, it's evolving, and I'm just to say that, again, if my opinion, an airport manager or director doing their job, you're trying to keep on the industry trend, looking at where the opportunity to attract that business to our airport.
Any other questions? We can move to the next item.
Yes, I think so. I'd like to close just the fact that we will be making the same similar presentation and bring it to council out of what the situation is with our rent rates and basically the operational situation currently. Last comment I want to say is that the analysis of the operating cash flow, it again, they based it on a budget this year. Just remember, for the mission of people in the public here in attendance, that budget does not have formalized building, and I'm building and or hangar building maintenance program. So we have 20 and 30 plus year old buildings sitting out there that need a lot of maintenance and upkeep. We have executive hangars that buy old doors that have very old cable systems that need to get replaced. We have no formal system addressed in the budget because we don't have budgetary resource. So even though there's a cash flow, there's been a big gap in what stayed there because there's my gut would tell me that based on the number of buildings, we had an additional $200,000 to $250,000 a year to put towards building maintenance, where we could be touching and upgrading buildings for a period of time. And that need is getting critical. You may remember we had to replace the roof. Well, we didn't even replace the roof. We just put a urethane coating on the roof to create a 10-year fix for the DK building. Right, that just coating, which only gets about a 10-year guaranteed solution to the roof leaking, that was $60,000. So again, the alert is to the fact that construction costs have been increasing greater than CPI, right? So it's really crazy to have to maintain it and do work on the builds too. So,
Jeff, is that something you're looking into grant fund for?
well, that's the issue is that what's typically available to airports are your Airport Improvement Program grants from FAA. There's also in the last 2022 the 5% law. So that's a fixed amount, and we have projects that are planned based on that, using of that, and then we have to, those grants. FAA has to hold that money, and this I haven't heard the money's going away, being peeled. Remember that fund group called Doge? So, but like here, for example, we thought we were going to do the design work for the taxiway alpha restriction. We've been reaching to the EO's office. We have not heard they're going to issue an AP grant there, which is very discouraging. So I'm very frustrated with that situation. We'd get the Bill project grant agreements this year now over that director report.
Is that the DA?
No, that's correct.
DA funding also, correct?
Yes, for some of the west side improvements related to the taxiways and upgrading the perimeter road and making the connection to business parks.
Is that also something like the hangar and the improvements, something the EDA might fund?
Well, the EDA seems like a high level. It seems like something that is very promising, right? But what they're really doing is it's economic development that's tied to jobs. So you need somebody that is going to say, if you give the grant, if you perform work that the grant was designed for, does it create jobs? Here's our hard sell. You don't create jobs.
Thank you.
With that, I think we should wrap this up into the next one.
Yep, let's move on to 7.2.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Kurt and
Thank
Rick,
you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
So Jeff, I believe a presentation will left at Aaron's.
Yes, let me introduce you. I'm here.
All right.
So the next item is to receive a presentation from Aleph Aeronautics Incorporated to review the proposed use. Want to take the public comment. We are looking for feedback on their proposed use, which again we're going to cover at a high level. But attached to the staff report, you have what's called a CONOPS document, which attempts to outline procedures. It outlines locations, and it talks about what kind of teams on the ground to make sure that their operations can be conducted safely at the airport. It also talks about what's called de-infliction, meaning that they don't want to create a conflict with aircraft users. They wouldn't start testing operations. There are conflicts if, like, they see aircraft testing on a ramp. If you want the location that would be on the ramp space, and if they're on the west side where they were proposed, and they would watch for aircraft coming out of hangars or coming into runway 24, and they would start. So again, we're looking for a feedback to that document and for overall feedback input about the overall use. Again, I want to say that this is the kind of opportunity that is revenue generating opportunity. So again, we have the pleasure of having, I don't want to hack last name pronunciation, CEO of Aleph Aeronautics. I like to give him the chance to give the presentation, but as we watch the presentation, we have the aeronautical use map So he's going to be controlling what goes on monitors because he isn't really focused on that. But just understand, we'll come back to this after his presentation.
First couple small acts of credit. So originally the head of this dog does them contacted us and suggested going to the airport with R&D and with test flights. So this is not the whole region. When they suggested it, and Jeff, we looked at and in the presentation I see what fit into the more Jeff. Do I microphone or can I hear? You guys can hear. Okay. So, we pretty much things on the important balance. This is how to use the airport for flights and for sometimes bringing investors, showing investors. This is kind of main use. This particular presentation just will take about 10-15 minutes, just about aircraft. So there's a separate document about the cost and we talk about the actual usage. But again, the general principle and modern agreement is making sure we not disrupt existing tenants, make sure always give the right way to any other traffic at all. So we only operate and no operators. So that's another thing. Now a little bit about the ourselves. So pretty much think so and also the you saw some of those views because it kind of explains what is. It's both car and aircraft. Some of the videos you've seen here have been a lot of videos actually now on most viral video, so this is not new to anybody. Basically the idea is the car and an aircraft in right? So as you can see, the size of it is size of about TV, right? The same time, it is, as you see, right? So there are different uses, three uses of the flying. I'll talk about that. There's driving, there's rotor mode, there's a body mode, right? This particular version you see here, ultralight, is what Ala was the light. So you can supply what you can see here. All those lights are about 20 seconds and about 20 feet. So this kind of we call rotor light test, which is there is one more test of literature. This is what we're going to do right now. Here, only this way. There's something that people shall clever about, but this is for right now, right? How it works. So this thing how it works. Right? So first, happen we do the engines in front of the car and the back of the car to make sure there's empty space there. And the way it drives, there's actually motors inside four-wheel motors. In that empty space, called we put BPs, so like propulsion. So it's 8 propeller more speed controller systems which are independent of each other with differential thrust, which all provides redundancy. Then we have on top is called the mesh. We call this mesh. Right? So if A provides structure, B allows the air goes through, right? So the air. And C is actually so safety device put in the ground on the air, it's preventing a purple sound like a burst strike or anything like that. On the ground, we did a lot of exertions on a lot of those. And kids try to take their hands out, so it prevents anybody from actually reaching inside or cabins, they are in the future level 2. That's basically kind of general how things work. Now, there are features proposed Model A. Model A is not, we have it now. We have right now Model A also to go next. Model A has about these features, and this is important because this is where we're going. The goal is to take Model 0 and through different tests, the flight tests, instead of airport terminal available. So, and we also agree with other which FAA will become the destination to fly there. So, this is where we're going. This is where we are right now. It is 100% electric. The range is about 6 miles vertical and 50 miles in horizontal. There's also 50 miles drive range. There's payload. It's about 7 by 7, I guess, about the size of UV. It's in regular park space, driving base, anything like that. Most of it is on car backer, which means it's so strong everywhere. It's very quiet, but the electric car goes regular. It is very quiet and zero emissions. Now, this is a huge something will transition to the bottom. And then you may because it's kind of like that's the extension. So in order to get further range, what happens is transition by taking sides into the actual wings, right? So now you have 2 wings, both the airport. You're going to look at the actual from the top, you're going to see air force on the both sides. But it also lands for a little bit further down there for the transition. Now, transition is, it does the whole reason why transitions use the 7 less flow because you have like 2 airports and it has a variation. It does variation, whatever you get. Rather than if we test them. Small models, right? So we've been playing for years on a small scale, right? So let me finish with this slide, which I think is most important for the presentation. There are a lot, so Jeff about AM. AM not only bringing new opportunities to airports, it also has innovation in safety. So there are also safety features, which usually are not the traditional. I mentioned the redundancy, I mentioned huge redundancy. The redundancy is system redundancy and multi-system redundancy. I'll give you several examples. When first as the distributed propulsion, we took all the propellers away completely, and we not listen to the aircraft because they could stay. So if two ends completely go, an aircraft like not notice other than having more energy consumed. It completely stable. So and like I said, those competing different conditions, which is increase the probability, reducing the probability of any kind of bad accident, which means it at least 4 times redundancy of your traditional air. There's also redundancy on systems, even if all A goes out, is the very statistical almost probability. You can't rely on they are levels individual whether it's straight. Because it's all lightweight, the one you saw on the screen actually two big ones. As a one blend of stuff that was all this kind of belief for reports. We also do a lot of software save features to help them return home. Their like the systems, their like financial itself, the fact that everything is closed, right? So probably heard that we had incident where the broken, right? Everything closed. So even if something happens, it's enclosed inside, and we always find around. Right? So there are a lot. You know, one of them is converses. Let's say there's a single or even double together. There's a redundant system, system redundancy, investment redundancy. So there's a lot. So there's kind of a brief introduction on them together. But yeah, it was a very corporate. So they are more technical. So any kind of questions, everyone will understand it.
I'd like to give them some of the comments now that you've just presented. So our status, this summary will be public comment, and then we'll have questions. Okay. So with that, I'd like to say, we may break the map on there's two locations. Location would be location on the very west end. The very west end of Chile, Taguay, Chile. So they would have a trailer over there parked on the north end of last executive hangar, so that wouldn't be interfering with any aircraft coming through between the hangars. And then they would drive the car out onto Taxiway Charlie if there's no conflict, and basically there it would begin to do the rotorcraft test, which is again, I call it the frog. So that they need a box of about 50 to 65 feet wide by about 200 feet long to conduct tests. That's kind of the band use. During that time, they're going to be monitoring the CTAF, as well as having visual observers, because we all know, right, we have a lot of aircraft that may not have radio, and radios are not required at our NG airport. So visual observers will both be looking at the air traffic pattern, taxiways, the runways, and in this case, they would be looking at hangars to make sure that there's no aircraft that are going to be coming out wanting to get out of hangars and down Taxiway Charlie. That's location one would use there, and also primarily their location for desired demonstration for like investors and or video shoots, because that has a more road-like appearance to it. Okay. So that being said, I would draw up if after all the input here, we've done drawing an airport use agreement, they would access that location from the west side gate coming up Rose Star. Now we have a vacated line of fly downs because in the Big Ten hangar there, just to the right of green box there, that Big Ten hangar, right, that has a jet that comes in there, so we've had to vacate that space, but that doesn't go out every day. So in order to create an opportunity here, if we can, we can say we can test here that there's a 50 to 65 foot wide, 200 foot long box that they're testing there. And again, they're basically going to have a control van, and we want a vehicle because they would bring cars on a trailer. We could even have them park the trailer back away, because the intent would, again, they have a team that would be pilot command. They would also have observed that, again, is looking monitoring the CTAF, and also in this case, with being a leapfrog or the rootcraft test, they're going to really be concentrating on our aircraft moving on ramp where they might be interfering, or their active aircraft coming down Charlie and coming in on Juliet into the north end of the ramp. So they would not conflict with any of this type of operation, right? So again, I think that's really great. And in speaking to the future biplane mode, this would be the location where they have home base, all the initial setup testing there. They would venture out on the north end of the ramp, take on Charlie. They proceed down to the runway 24, they would stop at the whole bar. At that point, because in biplane mode, they become regular aircraft. They would go to, it's all clear in the traffic pattern and all clear. They would take the active runway after being at the whole bar, making the call outs in their final observation, seeing the conflict. They would take the runway, in which case they would then proceed in that green track that would stay over airport property, and they would, at some point, they would take back out of the biplane mode into the rootcraft, because as it set down to land, it would be back into a car on four wheels, in which case, once it lands up by 3-1 Charlie, then they drive back over to the home base and return. So they would get off of the aviation system, do what they need to do, and then start the process all over again if they're going to do other flight. So that's kind of the concept, and it's expressed through that ConOps document. So again, we're looking for input from our product community and our tests here, and if we're at the point where we're ready to a positive recommendation, that then we'd be working on an import user agreement that would allow the access and their requirements and would incorporate ConOps procedures that are going to follow as they utilize our airport with all public.
Do you have any comment?
We do have one, and it's in.
I feel like I stole somebody out here. I love that the concept, really do. I got a question, because locating one does affect me in some sense. So my question was, what the noise impact is going to be, and two, what is the FOD factor going to be? We could have a road crap pushing down, and that location does a lot of debris. I was just wondering what FOD factor happened, because I heard in your AI vision on screen does show a force coming on there.
Sure.
Man, I don't have.
Well, you stop time.
I'm sorry,
Give me
you're
time.
right. Right.
Speak
So,
to the
Your
address.
question would be.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So
thank you.
my question was, what's the downforce going to? I think it's a concept on the face as far as taxi now and fly pad. That's great. But can I pose that the third location is N31? Is an open area down there, wide open, have a run-up base, and that could start initial testing ground. Just thought on front. In location one, pretty good. Location two, I just concerned about the fact. That's all.
Is that all
So
our
what's the
public?
first question?
Is that all our public speakers?
It is, there was the one. Thank you.
Okay.
So what is the downforce?
Should be maybe an average. So it's ultra V is 2 feet long. It's size about 70 feet. So it's smaller. You can compare the force about the ultra aircraft. A small helicopter like Mosquito or something. It's very small. We didn't measure it specifically, but it's smaller than probably any aircraft is big. Yeah, right now. And the noise is also like much lower than any aircraft. Yeah, that's smaller. So maybe that's smaller.
May I request that if we just stick to the point, the one question, please, and it's not open to comment. If we need to reason it up for more questions, we would need speakers to come to the podium, please. So, and yeah, typically our answer uniquely. So do we have a foot-pounds of pressure, air pressure, based on the ins and spinning of the prop? I think that gets to the point.
We have not measured the exact number, but it's easy to see comparable. It's easy to see the comparable aircraft, and we're a little below the about comparable to comparable aircraft we recommend. So it's not so public for those kind of aircraft. So it's not a helicopter. On this video, first of all, it's video, this is the different one, and on that video was actually cut grass, right? And so thing not from that much. So to the degree to that side and longer. So it was just 7 feet over the grass. And it's roughly like a light layout of the grass.
Just one question that I need for so.
Yes.
Are you finished? Thank you. And then to the other question that he has, have you considered any other location at this point?
Well, I asked them to propose the location. We did have a meeting and a tour site visit and looked around. So while I agree, there's, obviously the north end of runway 1 is not utilized as much as these other spaces. So I appreciate that suggestion, but in this case, you've got a car and a van and it's got the vehicle too there, that's not necessarily the same accessibility. So that being said, I'm not saying no, the 3-1 wouldn't work for some testing, but it certainly creates some challenge in terms of getting our support vehicle there and sharing the vehicle there. The other thing that would state that concern about FOD, these surfaces should not have FOD before they do their testing operation, and part of the test procedures in the CNOP is that they'd be walking and doing a pre-flight check before you start doing that, so it would be a airport staff. Just as the other craft are, if you guys call the airport office and say, hey, we have FOD, we're here on the 2A Charlie, we just bought a $100,000 sweeper about a year and a half ago, we're coming to remove FOD, right? So typically, the FOD wouldn't be a need because it should already been clean. Sure.
Okay.
So more of a statement. I think the 3-1 is good because that property on the east side, 3-1 down to the end, that's an overfence agreement on the property. I'm positive it. I used to own it. So it has an overfence agreement on it. If you were to contact the Crononas, which would believe Amazon, and came in through that way, that would handle the traffic. And that's about the only spot on the airport where it is out of traffic pattern. Everything is left traffic. So if you're too far, if you're using 4 in the afternoon, it's an issue. because you'd be 7,000 feet down, and if take off 2 for it's left traffic. So that's going away from them. If you're using 3-1 in where location 1, 2, where the green circle is, that's you're right in the middle. You're straight into where the drone is going to be. And I understand you have your operational, your comps, whatever. But from a safety and from a pilot point of view, better location be the 3-1. Has the taxiway and has the runway.
So can you ask a formal question, please? This is a question.
Would you consider me that?
Well, again, I'm not aware of an over the fence agreement that you're seeing, nor am I aware of an easy access there because it's from property. They get muddy and it's so again, and what I would ask for consideration response is that this is an aircraft that is both a car and an aircraft. So to that extent, it's going to look a little bit different because they're not taxing them the fuel arm going out and taking active way and flying off, but it's going to be an aircraft hovering over the ramp, different than a helicopter doing air taxi maneuver. We have helicopters now that do a taxi maneuver. So that's my response to the question. Next question, please.
Eric,
I have a question about the dust. You said the dust in the first video where it over the car, the video showed a lot of dust debris blowing up. That was CGI? No, so it was real. So you're on a street that you hadn't cleaned when you went in a car, so you're getting street debris blown up. Is that correct?
From the outside world. Okay, I think referring to the second. So first one was flying on the truck where it was actually grass, and the second in the city.
In the city, went over the car, there was a lot of dust that came up.
There's actually sand. That's sand. So was it asphalt road? But there's not. Asphalt road next to the asphalt road before the video there's not. The narrow road very narrow. There was sand. It's a great sand.
Okay.
So whatever you saw did not came from asphalt road. Whatever you saw, all that came like literally sand was here on video.
I think that what Ms. Min was concerned about is in your location 1, the north side taxi, there's nothing but loose dirt. After Springton and the grass dies, that's loose dirt. He's concerned about that being blown around amongst fingers there. So if you can assure us that will alleviate somehow, maybe they come put some water down there before you test something. And most of that's probably going to go away from them. My second question is, presentation is it's 40 decibels. How far away was that measured? Is it measured or is it a guess?
No, it's actually, so again, usually doing cover and give measured, that was standing pretty close from here to about there.
Okay, so it wasn't measured at 1,000 away from you said 40 dB. So that's right next to Sarah's right there. He's worth about a 100 dB vehicle being 50 feet his business operate for an hour. So if it's 40 dB standing right next to 100 feet away, 200 feet away, it's going to be significantly less and not a problem. Yeah. My question is, in location 1, can you assure while you're doing tests there, an airplane or tenant comes out that you will push your test somehow your car out of the way?
That's what Jeff made put in comments. Yes, it is from my understanding. I put it on it is an answer because he brought up that exact scenario. So it does say that there's visual observer and field observer, and also there is also an honor. We can upward even one star.
Right.
Like for especially vertical, it's cannot this land of it.
So when you do land it and you bring the car away, if we look at location 1, which is on out with trailers, you look at that vehicle. Where are you going to move the vehicle to? Because you move on Whisper, because that's prior to them. Actually, Charlie cut off the other right. Are you planning to move past the end of the last west hangar and the taxiway ends to Miss Building? Location 1, taxiway C. Letter C is a diagram. If you board and land right there, you're still going to be at the end of the hangar. Ingress, egress. I've concerned you abort. Yeah, you abort. We're going to move the vehicle too, because you can't put it on this hangar. And you put in another taxiway, or you put it down where taxiway, fairly clear runway 6 there, or 4. We're just to know what your plan is going to be. When you abort, where you get the vehicle.
The idea was for them to return to their home position, which would be to back up. I think if they're more towards the west location and they work there because they see somebody coming out T hangers starting to come up, then they're going to back and pull back in to do the north end by the whole thing.
So they're all the way back.
Yes, yeah, that would be
to
goal.
the
Other option would be there's that could go down and temporarily use hotel if there was no other aircraft in traffic, but the preferred way to deconvict would be to go back to them, make it off the aircraft out safely, and then retake the position for the rest.
Just didn't want there to be an argument to come up with that. And you have board and vehicles in the way. So if they have a plan to get the vehicle out of the way.
So it should
and
be
then start
meeting on
test.
CTEF, so they should be letting the aircraft we see you coming, we are boarding, let us, clear the taxiway.
And-
You know,
So it's like a golf then, correct? It's basically an electric powered golf. I don't know you don't like it now, but that's an electric vehicle at that point.
Also, it's advantage Jeff wrote it drives force and there's this. So we have to take any turn that can actually just
And just to give emphasis, I agree that there are applications in the airport, in my opinion, if it can mitigate your ingress, egress of your vehicles. I believe that the Department of 3-1 is place that it has been the place for that. It's not in your diagram. It's historically when used engine runs, for width of tests, for people who've done R&D, that where they've traditionally gone at Hollister. It's the departure into 3-1, used ad that's there.
There's a one thing about location when it says 99, no, 90% of the time using application too.
That-
Location one is very, very, only when you need, for example, like a video or like a NASCAR and everything. The flight tests are location one and very rare when you need to film video or something like that. That's your location.
So at that point, you're gonna have the equipment stuff found. If you're gonna use location one, you have the possibility of having people with video cameras around different angles. Are you planning using drones? That?
No, sure, sure.
Okay.
Around them in person.
Okay, because if we drones, then we get a permit to use it inside airport traffic area.
The reason of this location is that we were just seeing the cruising on the airport route. So we do like, by coming in this loop, so we change this location in your.
Yeah, I looked into, I have a problem with. It's the end of the director end of the one. Traditionally has, that's where that kind of was done.
Supposed to be able to use runway.
Exactly,
That's great with that, of course.
yeah. Okay, that's,
I had a question, a few questions. Thank you for your presentation, very interesting. Where have you, or are you currently testing?
Sure, so I have a location in Palm Bay, which was Road FA, so the previous version of the same area is better or something we can. And, that's required for use of the.
Is it at the airport? Half Moon?
So that year, it's agricultural. We also signed an agreement with, Palm Bay Airport, very tested, so we can actively use a lot in Palm Bay Airport.
But you have an arrangement with Half Moon? You have used,
Oh, yes, yes, that's what you use there.
how often do you plan to use that Half Moon Bay for test?
No, no.
Okay.
Because I feel next to it, and that's still actually better.
So you haven't actually tested this maybe once, twice at an airport?
Not in the real test, just when I've seen it. So mainly with like Palm Bay, but we've been doing it for many years, many years.
And the concept, it was a little, it says half a day in 2-3 weeks. One place says 1 per 2 weeks. What does it mean? Once a month?
I give you a very strange situation, I have no idea. It was the measurement because as a startup, we've done this so many times we depend on, it's possible to estimate. It will depend on maybe like first test, we will know the level of dust, we'll know how it works everybody. So I think a lot of that depend on the first test. How much it's gonna be, whether it's gonna be, just logistics wise, good and everything. So, I think that the first test will give us that information. We will know, much more after first test. At this point, it's second round.
And I would like to add into the answer to that question that, as we proceed to airport use agreement based on this, it would have a trial month period where that would monitor their usages and seeing what conditions are and seeing that things are being done safely and accordingly we can look at the location and about the potential from the edges and stuff. But again, they're much less than a helicopter, and we have several helicopters that operate around and create plenty of fun. So, but yes, there will be a trial period that I put in the airport use agreement because it's new use on the airport.
Similar, so we can have one, they also have one of, trial which they have to filter.
Has the airport director, have you had a chance to talk to Half Bay Airport and see how that one went? If they had any kind of issues? And has anyone from Hollister or the airport, mainly you, gone to the demo of this? See, I highly recommend.
To either of those. For one, I don't believe that they've operated on Hollister Airport or Hammond Airport yet. And two, I think that the fact that it's been recognized by FAA before, previous models had a number and stuff, it's really an aircraft. So about, can we feel confident they can operate here and be in conflict with our aircraft? We are a public use airport. So.
So incomplete test logistics, right? Because part of logistics is actually of the problem, getting there as well. As you said, haven't done the actual flight test and not the airport and so on. Number to do all that, this is why actually they are curious. A lot of this is to get like on so far we need people so they show their life and will never be associated as an aspect. So not a lot of people just
Okay.
This is gonna be strictly around pilot number.
So what we're working is FAA now, we're working on channel, right? We can see it on channel. This is where we're traditional ultralight. The one for that was special versus experimental for the ignition. But yes, we are hoping to do actually both optional. Okay.
And one last question, me too. It will have an end number on it. It will call out that number?
As of today, this is not right. That being said, we are in process of ready getting number more than OB for the common budget. There's also, we're talking about the seller, there are multiple versions of the same background. So there may be a possibility that we classify one an ultralight, one as the rate respiratory, and one an OB. So those are kind of possibilities. And the important thing is we want to, as we do right now, want to work to make sure that whatever makes sense specific for Hollister, we're gonna go, right? Because like we don't have any like option. So I want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable. Everybody feels comfortable with type of aircraft, with the operation we're doing. This is why that first use and everything will show to the level.
And last question, Thomas. The trailer that you bring your equipment, car, or the plane, to location 2, how much space does that take? And is it something that you just put in for the one day, or is it something you're thinking about a permanent leaving thing at the airport?
And both have to be moved so they can move out of the way. So like if big jet comes out of the hangar, they've got to move to a space where that can safely get around them. Again, that's why they have visual observer watching for that kind of conflict, and our expectation they would back off and provide adequate space for aircraft moving from Juliet down or from the hangars of the field from going out that way too. So.
Last comment, I think it's a great opportunity for Hollister. It's a wave of future to have a innovative project like this, and it brings exposure to the airport and Hollister, and so I appreciate your time, and Jeff, and I think great opportunity. Thank you.
Claude, go ahead.
I have a question. I see the payload was 250 pounds.
Yes, that's all non-calculated as 50 pounds. We can less small when they are on switch.
So I don't have to wait.
Yeah. So our first best direct, is a full black. That's his weight.
Okay.
Okay. So there, what we need to do there is we need to
We need a relation.
briefly we need to tie in any input or feedback from thought or recommendation. That recommendation could to table this and much further consideration. Could be considering that airport receive the airport use agreement and go forward. If there were anything specific in terms of concern or whatever, can also take direction to look to modify the COP as part of the airport use agreement development. So to the extent I would ask that you entertain a motion and then take a vote, please. And
I
John?
will entertain a motion from the commission. Have one?
I'm gonna move forward with this to bring it to the council with, make sure, but we all need to make sure that we discuss, okay, better, or make recommendation.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I don't think that real motion, because it's not clear what we're asking a motion to move forward on.
Of the operation?
No, the
I
item
I
of
believe
the
contingent
agenda
is
is
that the
to,
motion had a condition on it.
Can have a condition?
No, that's the tension.
Well, I think I might clarify for him that his motion be we felt the appropriate positions at the north end runway 1. And so several factors we discussed already. This is not for discussion at this point. There should be no more further discussion. That's his motion. Either get second or it is for second and take another motion. Thank you.
Do a second. Okay, so what I ask then is that you state your motion.
We move forward, entertaining the amendment one, with the idea of further discussing the location of the operation.
Is the motion clear?
Chair Hughes, I just want to clarify that they be out of the authority of the commission. Just a reminder, you make recommendations to the council. If that is a motion, then you can proceed on and took that out.
It's a clarification that that motion to be amended.
With the authority of the commission, yes.
And the recommendation would be taken in consideration drafting the airport use agreement that would go to council.
I think knowing what we've presented here, we either need a motion to approve, not approve, knowing the airport director is going to have a one term in the lease or in
So I
agreement
think
she's
what
already
you
said.
it's a motion for recommendation not.
Yes, that's what I
what I'm
agree.
for, yeah.
I can make such motion if that's been tabled. A motion that we recommend agreement.
Next, that motion?
I don't know if it's a second on that second motion.
You can't.
Withdraw motion.
You may proceed with your motion.
I recommend we accept the agreement as presented. No airport directors do that. I recommend we accept motion.
So we have a do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There we go. We have a recommendation. Presentation, guys.
Yes, and for the record, gentlemen, where you go and depart back to Mateo, please note that you will get a copy of your presentation that you gave. If you can forward that to our clerk, Katie. Thank you.
And also for record, I don't know, Commissioner Wells, if you had to vote, but we will that for the right.
I'm in for.
Thank you.
I'm not.
With a verbal. All right, I think one's done.
That
All
one's
right,
done.
so we'll move on to 7.3, the review of proposal for use for the additional areas and grounds.
Well, so in preview of the commission, we are to look and review the proposed use, which would use would end up being an additional ground lease area. So this would be an amendment to the existing with arrow ground lease. And so it's approximately, right now, we're not sure exactly the exhibit there. It's multiple colors because we're not sure if we're taking just the green area or the green and kind of the orange triangle. But so at this point, let's talk about the use. So Hollister is one of our advanced air mobility companies. They've been at our airport since at least 2015. They have multiple leases, and in this particular example, in the green box, there's the bluish hashed 100 by 100 space. Their existing ground lease building is right next to it, so this would be an amendment of taking the space around that building, their future uses. And so, again, their operations at the airport continue to evolve, and I can't divulge a lot of information they shared specifically with me, and it's evolving, but they are looking for more space for utilization. And so to this is the 15,000 square foot building at the 2016, and then they also took over through the fin agreement, which is another 15,000 square foot building that's very adjacent. In the exhibit, you have the hangar 1 label with the arrow to the 50,000 square foot on the airport property, and the hangar 2 is the through fence location is in business park property. It is fairly fast to run and meet all the criteria of through the fence acts permit. And this would be, right now, they are wanting to do 10 improvements that would increase the ability to have more workers between the buildings. So one of the primary use of this additional ground lease area would be more increased parking for 2 locations. And so again, we currently don't have a competing desire from anyone else to utilize this area of the airport. It's kind of a clipped area that is stuck between our current hangars over there and the current wood building, and then the future lease line there of the fire site. So again, I think this is fairly uniform with using it. If they didn't use it right, then the box where the 100 by 100 is the very likely spot. If somebody wanted to come in and build a big hangar and be near a taxiway, that's probably the last opportunity to an existing taxiway. So that being said, again, with plan to increase the number of employees working at the airport, being required to provide additional parking space, I think a solution for the 2 situations is put that on this, and it increases our revenue, and it supports the evolution of our good existing tenants and evolving business. So, as you know, this is now owned and supported by Boeing. So, hopefully, our fingers crossed, sightings to come for the future of the airport and Hollister in the region. Then, right? That being said, we also would look the opportunity as they're constructing the parking lot. That's one proposed implement they would have right now. The additional area it presents an opportunity for us to address what I thought was always a plain shortcoming when they allowed for the existing building, which right now you can see that their existing parking lot is accessed directly across from the T hangars. You have vehicle coming along that most easterly T hangar building and pull into the parking lot. And we happen to have people that are here present where their hangar is typically affected. It's confusing to somebody driving in a car because of a mindset where you're looking at the back of it. You can't necessarily tell in your car that the top spin. You can't tell the pilot seeing you. I pass, so I need to get over there. That's my place of implement. So that being said, we'd look to solve that issue by creating a new access up to a new parking lot to get in that and look to shut off that on foot right there. So it presents the opportunity for us to correct what consider deficiencies. Yeah. So that being said, depending on whether it's just the green, it could be just the parking lot, it could be just the green area, or it could be the orange area included. So based on the combination of what they back to with the act use, it has the potential 100,000 in just the first 12-month period of this additional lead area. So with that being said, I would entertain any public comment, and then again questions from commission.
Do we have public comment?
There are no public
No
comments.
other comment, question from the commissioner?
Where is the access road going to be that you're envisioning, and I think it's a requirement? Where's the access road? Where are you envisioning it would, where it would start and where it end on this map? Because I see the orange, I see 2 green parcels. Are you, again, by 100 by 75 or 7 foot, where the orange makes a right triangle there, off the access road there? Are you thinking along the dotted lane?
The access to their parking lot still may be where the cars actually turn and are looking to come up that open space towards the hangar, but would turn into the parking lot with a immediate right into their parking lot well before they get to be the existing hangars.
Okay, so you're looking at the end of that,
Yeah,
100 by 70 foot
because
hangar space.
I would like to point out this concept here. It shows the future potential taxiway against the business park base. The idea is when ground lease, we want to preserve the taxiway safety area setback, the taxi lane object free areas. So that's why this is set that way. So I think the access will come probably from that, but also it depends because they take triangle. We could come from our existing access road and create access up through that, depending on what the plans might be for utilization. So my point would be to respond to that the most like spot, just in my own opinion, without seeing concepts yet, if they would use all this, would be that would be a right turn in for you up adjacent to the hangars on that road. But there is potential if they take that orange triangle that could come off the access road there. And so my job when I'm considering these type of proposals as they implement improvements on this area, it would be to look to minimize the kind of conflict between different uses of craft and vehicles, et cetera, right? So that's, to your point, we'd be looking to do it in a way that doesn't conflict with craft.
There needs to be a road over there, there shouldn't be a road in the usual plan. If the plan is just a road next to the taxiway, that won't really alleviate the problem. But if we have a road that is away from the T hangars and the existing taxiway, and from the T hangars basically cross that, this triangle, the 270 by 170 lot, down lot line where that dotted line is.
So again, there's
But
an
it'd be
opportunity,
deterrent,
there's
yeah.
the opportunity to reduce conflict,
Yeah,
to
agree.
eliminate it, and we would do that, but also be working through their plans as well, on how they will use the property, yes.
Would cost for that access road be given to risk, or would it be near asking for?
Well, for them to get into their own new parking lot, they're gonna be for what's to be done.
Good, okay.
Now, creatively, I wish we could come up with some almost matching money because there's some other pavement could use some repair in the area, but again, we scope this is about grounds and so being the evolved presence or operation of WIC on our airport. They've been good tenants. I think it's a great opportunity myself. It's going to generate revenue, which is clearly we've heard need revenue. And so this is one of those ground lease expansions that it's a good thing for the airport, and I believe it is an opportunity to correct that. Conflicts, I think you've got 3 pros, and I don't seem to see many on to this moving forward myself.
Any other questions? So I've just been aware we do have a comment from the public. Is that something we can back on or pass that particular point of procedure?
We called for public comment and
We
said
did,
that's
there
not right.
was someone after we had, well, I'm asking, we have had that, correct?
You can go ahead and make a motion to reopen public comment if you'd like, and I'll vote to reopen.
I'll make a motion to open public comment.
I'll second.
Vote.
In a sec, another question?
We
All in
need to,
favor?
did you take it?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
You didn't know it was going to be? All right. I've actually answered my question. I just want to know, after they make the taxiway and that they're going to clean, some of these other taxiways are crumbling. If Boeing is going to do, because all of that, was caused by doing their construction originally of that number 1 hangar, and then all the trucks that are going by. And yesterday I had eight Hellfire big trucks go through that area, and you could just see the asphalt just come up in areas. So just want that stuff cleaned up and repaired. And Jeff, that we're trying to do. So I'm okay with that. The access there, it's going to happen where it happened. But yeah, it's a long time coming for to have another access way for their cars. So I don't have to yell at. Okay.
Okay, I think that's the public comment. Great. Any other questions from the listeners? You didn't recommend it this one?
Yes, we are asking for the consideration of making a recommendation, so it's for a motion.
I will make a motion for a recommendation or a motion to present an amendment that is for city council's consideration approval.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have a second? Anything on the question? No? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
There you go.
And then looks like we have adoption of 7.4. So next item is adoption of the amendments. The bylaws. Our recommendation.
Yes, so just a quick brief report here. So, and we presented the council changes to our bylaws, which the council, our city council had adopted. And so in the exhibit, you have those changes in blue. But our last meeting also brought up some recommended changes, and so we brought those back now for consideration by the commission. So those sections are in Article 2 officers, Section 1.5 vice chair language. And again, it presented you in changes in red. And then Article 3 meeting, Section 4 order of business. And so I believe we've clearly captured the intent of Commissioner Wells' suggested revision. Then it would be, if there's any questions, we could vote. But the comment.
So do you have any comment? No. Any further questions from commissioners on the boss?
A question. I'm new, and I read the Brown Act of posting. I'm confused why we're going to move verification of interposing down, but we do this.
So
No, not a recommendation.
Because we have to verify the agenda, we post a 72 hours notice before we conduct this.
I agree, that was my recommendation. It
So-
was to follow business the way the city council had commended, the city council or the council recommended it follow theirs, and that's the
So
way.
City of Hollister uses an on-ground. Each tribe sets the order for all of the agendas, and so the verification of posting is there as last statement on there. Does not have to be read. There's no context. It has to be read out loud before. That was our best practice. Do the posting, so it's noted on the agenda and fulfills on that requirement. So at this point, we want to have our agenda consistent with the order of business that is produced by the system, by automated system.
I'm not questioning you, this counts right there. It's your turn. Are we in compliance with the send for the verification agenda to after we cut this?
And I would answer yes, her Steve, because she's new, but she's looking for her answer. Let her answer too. It passes the Brown Act because we already implemented it on all other city agendas.
Yeah, it keeps consistent the council meeting as well as the committees. And this is city clerk implemented this.
So then, if we're not compliant with the Brown Act, the whole city's not compliant with Brown Act. That's basically what we're going to read to.
The actual agenda posting happens beforehand. It's just a verification. Come into compliance with the actual agenda posted, not when you verify.
So this has nothing to do with the Brown Act. As soon as it's posted 22 hours, we're in compliance. We don't have to verify it.
I mean, well, you could verify it, but the compliance comes with actual posting within 72 hours.
Okay.
Yes.
So compliance is posted,
Yes.
not because we verified something.
That's correct.
Okay, that ain't my question.
And that does, just for edification, changes it. Because we are correlated, that was the change that was adopted by the council, so we're moving forward with that. We may be scheduling special meetings. Special meetings only have a 24-hour requirement as minimum posting period. So that verification would change based on whether we're dealing with regular or special. Okay?
Just one comment on the order of business, and it is just order of business. It's not, it's just the way it is. But under roll call, it goes consistent, it starts with E, so it should be CE. It's just not order. But that's only correct I see. May have been a mistake. D was crossed out and then extended known as E, F, E.
It didn't renumber and they made formatting correctly because city council allowed to change in there too. So we will make sure it's alphabetically correct. Thank you. So you can make that part of your motion.
May I motion?
Please do.
I'll make a motion to approve the adoption of the amendments to the Airport Advisory Commission bylaws as noted with correction to Section 4 order of business and present it to the City Council for final approval.
I believe I can accept that motion, correct? Okay. Do I have a second? Yes, I. Motion and a second. Any thoughts on the question? All's in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, so moving on then to the director's report. So in the director's report, we've been covering airport grants. So we've given you kind of, again, 20 feet for at least the airport implement program that they are increasing their contribution to be 95% funding versus 90. We had the bipartisan money come. We accepted that grant award here just last month, and so that was, I guess, on June 13th. So the next steps is we have to basically recognize the results of the bid and contract. That's what responsive bidder. So again, that just for that function took on the obligation when we accepted the grant. So will before at this point, it's the FAA grant is $140,000, which is 90% of the bill. I believe it's still 90% on the bill. Yeah. Might be 95. So I don't want to say absolutely only 9, but I did clarify on that. And the other point, just again, those are two other grants that we update. There's no specific up to those two items. Moving on, SNP did hold an animal care clinic on Monday. It was very well attended. Again, each one of their users, they're paying the airport, well, the city animal control program is being airport $100 every time one of these clinics is held at the airport. So if their clinic held it on, they pay $100 a month for the use, which basically they come in there, plugging in to port and are use the offices in case Commissioner will not remember the segment that was presented. So Commissioner, what you asked for an update specific to the brownfield grant. So basically you have the nicely drafted language here, but short and dirty of it is what we have done is we have submitted for a brownfield assessment. That is one before we proceed to the brownfield grant actually for demolition and rehabilitation of the site. We have to go through the assessment first. We put that request in due to prolonging struggle of the program, etc. They said they not able to get out for about 6 months. The important criteria is whenever they do get out here, we not qualified to move forward to demolition and rehabilitation grant under the brownfield program unless they find soil contamination. So it's anybody's guess whether dilapidated military building, then there would be in airport offices, whether there's any soil contamination there or not. And I'm sure everybody's got their opinion, and it's mere speculation. The assessment will determine that. So I'd say we got less than 50 chance of moving forward with the demolition and rehabilitation grant. I highly doubt there's soil contamination. The light use that building was probably any contamination would be included just inside the building and the cement foundation. But we can hope there's some soil contamination we qualify. So, say your right question and save that for the end. That's the questions come to you. Okay. Moving on to the next update, the EA grant for less site improvements. So at this point, we are, working on the grant, and the range award be between $1 and $5 million. So, and this would be to build the hangar, the taxiway, and eventually get hangar development there for the west side of the airport and the connections towards the business park or through fence access. And obviously, we strongly believe that, from an economic development standpoint, having the taxis over there close to the business park would be less costly to make connections on the airport, so therefore make it more attractive to potential developers or prospective business tenants, and specifically those tenants that want an aviation use where they need access to the taxiways and ways. The application is approximately 8% completed. Our next step is working with our on-call engineering consultant to fill out an engineering and environmental portion of the settlement. The one struggle we've had and critical thing that we've had is in order to the EA grant is linked to job creation, and so there's a very specific kind of beneficiary form. It has to get filled out and submitted with the grant application, and we need those. You're looking at vacant land, and people are staring at like the runways over there, not too far, but far, and you thought about having to pay them down with the connection. So it's a tough sell to get somebody today. Yeah, if you spend $1 million on a taxiway, I guarantee that my business will go in the business park and will create 100 jobs. That's what we're kind of asking for through these forms. So we have some potentials. Not going to go into detail right now that potential, but that is challenging. So at this point, we hope to complete a submittal by November, and we hope to have at least 2, if not 3, of the beneficiary forms to accompany that submittal. Moving on, then on July 19th, the airport had the unfortunate incident of mid-air collision of 2 aircraft, and so it involved obviously the 2 aircraft lighting approximately 30 feet above the runway 1. One plane was landing and the other was taking off. The 2 converged at just the right circumstance to actually make physical contact. As a result, one plane was forced down into the runway. The landing plane was forced further down into the runway. The other plane was able to still continue its flight and immediately land back on runway. So again, this was approximately 30 feet off the ground. We had one pilot that was injured and transported to the hospital. The same pilot was relatively unharmed, probably shaken, but unharmed. Both aircraft sustained damage, the landing aircraft being totaled and the other aircraft sustaining relatively minor damage for when you're collision, you think. Federal Aviation Administration and the National Transportation Safety Board are investigating the accident. The airport has provided initial information to both and is cooperating with the investigation, and we are open to suggestions on how to work with them to improve. I think we can do a better job of improving the communication because maybe some confusion based on unfamiliarity with the very south end of what you think of as runway 31, but runway 31 actually starts 1,000 feet north of physical pavement, right? So technically it is a relocated threshold. And so, but again, our job is not to discuss that. This is just a brief update to inform you guys that we are participating, engaging the investigation, and we will look for opportunities to improve communication on their field. That being said, I would like to recognize and thank the first responders, Hollister Fire and Police Department, and assistance from tenants who are on site and our FO, the Hollister Jet Center. They're always very responsive to these types of incidents. It's a team effort when this happens. But I want to specifically recognize and thank Adam Okanura, who is our operations and maintenance person, and he did a tremendous job of handling the situation. And so with that, I'd like to say that thank you to him for his response and handling of the incident, and Katie Anderson, our airport person, she came in response to Adam's call, and she reported the response with Adam on the day. Collected all the information about all that, and then new coordination with NTSB and FA. So I ended out of town that day, and so I can't speak highly of our staff and the job they did. So that, move on to the next item. We are looking to upgrade the gate accesses at the airport. As you know, right now, there is a uniform code that is listed now for well over 20 years, and so we are seeing signs that we have people that really aren't tenants at the airport, tenants that come through the fence. One issue that we see that proves that point is we have people dropping trash off from home in the airport dumpsters. And so one of our grant assurances is securing the airport safe operation. And so those that do not have leases and do not have a need to have presence not be inside the fence. That being said, we are looking to upgrade the access control with a new system. We have evaluated looking at a couple of options. We have a limited budget resource for this type of correction. But that being said, we have looked at a system that is cloud-based, which gives us the ability to controlling gates, the ability to monitor, manage, and troubleshoot multiple gates in real time from our cell phones. Adam or myself, or even Katie and Liz, could control and help with the sense the gate. So with that, it would probably be a sole source because the uniqueness is not many cloud-based systems out for access control. And so we will plan to go to City Council and ask for a budget appropriation to add money into the budget this year so that we can purchase and install said system. So with that, I wanted the commission to be aware, because as we move forward, what it will mean is everybody's access will be revoked by arbitration of putting in a system. Everybody will have to get assigned a new method of coming in. And so it is also a time when we look at also making sure everybody is aware, provide copies of rules and regulations. And might, it's an opportunity to probably come to look at what other things we might want to accomplish at that time, because not often we have people come in to the offices. That being said, that includes my director's report. Brief questions, any?
Any questions?
On the Brownsville grant, are they flagged too? Those sound sort of flagged that it down in the soil.
Yeah, it has just materials, right? So yeah, they're looking for various types of hazardous material.
I think your chances increase dramatically, but it's still the flake off in the ground.
Yeah.
I had a question for the EA grant. How much are you asking, or is the Hollister asking for 80?
I wish it'd be 50 million, but the range is between 1 and 5. I would be all the contemplated west side improvement. We've looked at kind of have ballpark figure of about 10 million putting in ahead. So this would only address about half one taxiway side with one. So we'd be looking to get between 3 and 5 million would be all.
Any other questions?
I know for the questions, I just want to say I was there at the airport during the, at my hearing during July 9th event. Inclusion, and everyone did a great response. The FO was really great, getting the ambulance and everything out. And Adam didn't know he was involved, but great job. Thank you.
Any further business?
If there's any report out or for the commission, I guess we can put them there. No, there's no able to. Sorry, there was to be a month for you to. Sorry, we got
We'll get next thing, right?
next.
Okay. I think there's one thing left.
I have a motion for adjourn.
Second.
Motion second. All right, in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.